Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest is a podcaster, content creator, a stroke survivor, and disability advocate, Dionna Zupparo. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm very good. I always look forward to doing podcasts, and my show, like the MO of the show, pretty much is sharing like life stories, going into depth on that, and just kind
Hmm.
of, I don't know. I mean, I suppose in many ways it's kind of like a show that when you listen to it, maybe you walk away feeling inspired or you look at life a little bit differently. Um, and I personally always get something from it. So that's why I always look
Hmm.
forward to doing it. And as I mentioned off
Definitely.
camera, obviously we planned to do this show some time ago. I have questions here from one of my followers who sent them in, who was eager to get some questions in as well. So I'm happy to just jump into this really, if you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Let's do it. So we're going to start heavy.
Okay.
Right, yeah. So you suffered a stroke at age 14.
Yep.
Before we get to that, I just want to kind of just like reflect on that for a second, because I think generally speaking, when most people think of a stroke and a time in
Young,
your life,
uh,
right?
old people.
Generally, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure, again, I'm not an expert on these things, but generally it can be from pre-existing heart conditions. It can be a genetic
Hmm.
thing or whatever. It could also be as a product of lifestyle. But generally, that's something we attribute to older people.
Hmm.
I wondered, do you have you found out like why you experienced this stroke at such a young age? Like what the
No,
reason
it
was?
was unknown,
Mm,
and
interesting.
it was unknown, and yeah.
I
Yep.
wonder, like, if they've would have maybe considered, like, if they haven't already, like, conducting research on that, like,
Well,
moving forward.
we already did,
Oh, you
like
did.
after my stroke, and it was unknown. Like I
Yeah.
tested it and tested it again and negative.
What kind of tests did you do to?
A blood test and genetic testing and stuff like that. And negative, negative. Yeah.
In your bio that you sent over to me, it said that you actually died 3 times in the
On the,
operating room.
yeah, because it, like, my brain swelled so much and I had a craniotomy.
Could you just explain that a little bit for our viewers that might not be familiar with what that is?
A craniotomy is a piece of bone removed.
Oh wow, okay. And that
Yeah.
essentially saved your life then.
Yeah.
I think if I remember correctly, when I originally put out the message regarding, like, because I was looking for guests some time ago, and I
Hmm.
was I was discussing, I had quite a few people on the show discussing near death experiences, and I'm curious because obviously I want to kind of cover your experiences and what this has led to and everything in a bit more detail. But before we get there, I just want to kind of explore when you're out, when you're declared, dead temporarily. Did you see anything? Was there anything that you recall maybe that you saw while you were out? A lot of people and stories online sort of indicate that it's quite common to experience, for example, like a white light at the end of a tunnel or like
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Um, it was a tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah, the white tunnel.
How did it feel?
Yeah. I honestly, I was passed out and with uh medicine and on the table dying.
Right.
And I not remember it at all.
Oh, I see. As in, so it's kind of one of those things like when you look back now, it's like this was like hazy memories, or have you had to kind of
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that might be from like a trauma perspective, or is that more just, as you say, like the drugs just knocked you out kind of thing?
Both. Because trauma, like I have post-max stress disorder now
Oh,
because
okay.
um I was in the ambulance 4 times, and just seeing ambulance like rides, well, animal no. Sorry. I have aphasia as well. Aphasia is a loss of speech after a TBI or stroke.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't read, write, or speak after, just putting it out there. Um, what was the question? TBI, ambulance, rides. Yes. Um, just I have a modified car, and driving like on the road and seeing sirens and stuff going by and triggered me and cry a lot on the road. And I had therapy for it, and now I'm fine now, but it was really frustrating.
It's amazing how the human brain works with regards to these things because it's like, many years ago, I think now we're kind of getting to the point where it's truly understood just the impact of things like PTSD and what that means. As you just labeled there, you know, it's something that can trigger something else, and then it puts you back in that state. And of course, when you're
Hmm.
experiencing trauma head on, your body and your mind, etc., do things to protect you. And then, of course, when you find a scenario that feels even remotely similar to that, it's obviously triggers those responses. And again, your body trying to protect you, but from a conscious level, it's like, how do you even begin to like manage that? I mean, it's very difficult. And
Hmm.
I will say, just on a side note as well, ambulances and just police cars, etc., like really, really loud, like piercing. Like
Right.
oh my god, like I understand that you got to let people know, like get out of the way, there's an emergency, but like, does it have to be quite so painful? I mean, sometimes I walk down the street and I'll hear it, and I have to just stop for like a couple of seconds and just wince with pain because it's. Do you know what I mean? Like, if your desired impact is for people to get out the way, I mean, like, I don't know, it's not really going to work because
Yes.
everyone's just going to be paralyzed, like, ah.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, let's walk a little bit through the rehabilitation process. So this happens, and presumably you're in hospital for quite some time, I would imagine.
Hmm.
Afterwards,
Yep.
how long were you in hospital for?
Um, it was 2 weeks, like at the hospital, and I transferred to the rehab for 6 weeks, and then
Oh.
I was home after.
So walk us through like what the rehab looked like. Like how did they help to kind of build you back to a place where you could kind of feel more like yourself again?
Well, first day of like rehab, I was stuck in bed, and I was paralyzed on my right. Yeah. And day the second, third, fourth, I was up and in a wheelchair. And then I was going to therapy and stuff for my hand and my leg. And then I yeah. And then yeah, I had a AFO brace on my leg.
What's that?
Um, a AFO brace is a um well, can I show you?
Of course you can. I'll have to explain it for the listeners.
Yeah, that's oh geez. Oh. Oh,
Okay.
that's the
Can't quite make it out.
brace.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Oh, oh,
It
oh.
looks kind of what I see as a bright white screen right now. Kind of like a metal brace. It's very blurry. Uh, we might have to just include that afterwards. Maybe I'll include maybe a link to the image afterwards. But from what I could make out, it's kind of like a metal brace at the bottom,
Exactly.
something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a brace because I have foot drop. Foot
Okay.
drop is a neuro like thing. Um, not regular walking on my right. Um, just legs.
There's so much to unpack here. I mean, okay.
I know.
No, I mean, I think the thing there's a couple of things because okay, you're age 14.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a really heavy experience for anyone at any age to deal with. But being a teenager, you've got all these different things. You've got school, you've got
Well,
just
I
social life.
was well, I was in like the higher classes as
Oh wow.
well.
Okay.
Like I was kind of smart as well, and I was involved with cello playing
In the
as
swimming team
well.
as well, from what I read.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was in uh uh soccer, dance, basketball, track and field, and swimming.
Before we kind of address that, I want to kind of understand where your head's at immediately after this has happened. So kind of, because I'll say that just on a side note, not
Yeah.
by any way by comparison, but I suffer from a disorder called sleep paralysis,
Okay.
and it really like I'm terrified of that. I'll be honest. So I can only imagine what it was like, kind of being in a bed and you're, you know,
Paralyzed.
right, but like it because with sleep paralysis it lasts temporarily. You wake
Mm-hmm.
up and then it goes away, but this is like all the time, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
what's going through your head at this point.
Well, are you saying like immediately after my stroke or in the rehab?
Well,
Talk about.
let's do like a timeline. So immediately after it happens, let's
Well,
let's let's walk through that.
um, I was paralyzed on my left and my right side,
Okay.
actually, because I don't know why,
Mm-hmm.
but it was totally paralyzed. Um, and I had no speech, gone. Um, and the EMTs rushed me to the hospital, and I was wheeled down to go to the MRI machine, and I passed out in the elevator to go to the uh, MRI machine. Um,
Given that you couldn't obviously tell the doctors what was wrong, do you know
exactly.
how they figured it out? Like how
Well,
they
my scans.
okay.
Yeah,
So when they were bringing you in, I guess they were kind of blind in a sense because until they got those scans.
exactly. Yeah.
Crikey.
Um, like immediately like rushed into the hospital, and I had no voice.
Hmm.
No voice. And I was in my bathing suit at the time,
Hmm.
and the nurse cut my bathing suit off, and that was so pretty. Like the bathing suit. Wow. Just kidding. But
Hey, no, listen, like that's painful too, man. You lose something you love, like clothes wise.
yeah, just naked and frayed.
I mean, okay, so how long is it until your family reach the hospital? I mean that's kind of a good
Um,
point to touch on as well. Like you're
yeah,
it's a bunch of
yeah.
strangers there. Did anyone who came with you in the ambulance initially? Like,
My JV coach.
okay, so you got
Uh,
someone there, at least.
yeah. And then My family was running late actually,
Okay.
um, to the uh, well, swimming sectionals. Um, and my my coach, the varsity coach,
Hmm.
um, called my brother also on the swim team, like different time, and said, "Hey, Deanna is going to the hospital at Strong," and mom said, "Oh, probably not eat or something, just uh hydrated and stuff." Oh, that's fine. And
Oh,
it was
she doesn't get like the seriousness of the situation just yet.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, just yeah, and it was um yeah. And then like half hour later,
Hmm.
I say, my family was in my room in the ED. Um, and it was serious. Um, and then my dad was in the room and I stared at him blankly, not like, oh man. Anyway, um,
Was it just kind of like a you just not like did you have a sense of what was going on? Like, are so
yes,
you're fully aware?
but
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, like cognitively
Hmm.
was like with it, but
You panicking in this moment, or are you calm, or
I was calm and collected, actually. Um,
okay?
but I didn't speak, and my left and my right side was like numb as well. I mean, it was totally paralyzed. And oh man.
I know it's a lot. You take your time. Like we don't have to push with this. I understand.
And yeah, um, just passed out in the elevators to go to the MRI machine. And
Mm.
later, the doctor told my family she, well, Gianna suffered a major stroke. Yeah.
Mm. How did your parents take that news? Did they?
My mom, you know, like it was, she was on the ground, like crying.
Hmm.
Um, and it was like scary. Anyway, yeah. um,
Let's move it a bit forward. So,
yeah,
how soon was it before you started to kind of receive, or I'm going to put this frame this better, before your body stopped kind of being paralyzed? Because obviously you mentioned there that both sides of your body were paralyzed. You couldn't speak, couldn't do all
yeah.
these things. I would imagine that these things slowly but surely over the coming weeks came back and such. But how long is that before you start kind of
Well,
feeling again?
couple of days later, I had my left side not paralyzed.
Okay, that's
But
something.
yeah, um, and totally paralyzed on my right side. Um, but I remember I love uh vanilla milkshakes,
Me too.
and and I do not like chocolate milkshakes. And the speech therapist was in my room with a um chocolate milkshake,
Mm.
and I can't express it like I want vanilla, but
Yeah.
not talk, and I drank it anyway. Oh man, that was not good.
I was gonna say, I'm guessing you're right-handed as well, so you couldn't like write it down or something. Or,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes. I totally lost my reading as well
Oh
and
wow,
writing. I was totally mute.
that's interesting. That's interesting that you'd lose your ability to read in that
Hmm.
scenario. Do you think it's just because your mind was just at that point working a bit slower, or do you
No,
think,
like it was totally gone. Zero reading,
wow,
not writing, no anything. Um, uh, Now I am not 100% college level reading yet
okay.
as well. I'm getting there, but not yet.
How many years has it been since this took
11
place?
and a half years ago.
Mad. Um,
Right.
yeah, no, it's a lot. It's a journey, isn't it? It goes in stages.
Yeah.
Let's run it back to obviously when you're beginning your rehabilitation.
Yeah.
So run us through how you're feeling when you reach there, because obviously you got in out of hospital. That's good.
Hmm.
Now begins the recovery process.
Hmm.
Where's your head at?
Um, I was pretty not with it because having the trauma and stuff
Mhm.
and uh it was well, and I had surgery on my head as well. And
Jeez.
the doctor took out the staples and stuff, and I was in a helmet as well
Oh my
for
gosh.
4 months.
Months.
Yeah.
Were you ever able to turn? Did you have to sleep like that?
Yeah.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
no, having the helmet removed for bed, but
But yeah, but I mean,
but
it's uncomfortable, isn't it? Like you're gonna. Oh my
exactly.
gosh.
But feeling I was like I was totally with it in my head. Like a full speech, no, like totally with it, but can't speak.
So what are you thinking in this time? Like, what's going through your head? Like, are you thinking about the swimming and stuff, and like how you're gonna get back to that, or are you just happy to be alive? Like, what's going through your head at this point?
Well, I it was so long ago.
Right.
Um Feeling I was pretty depressed at the time because going into the rehab and stuff, like why me?
Hmm.
Why having so many good things in my life? Why me? And I was warming up to swim sectionals and I got out of the pool and I told my friends, like, I am not feeling good. And I sat in a chair. 10 seconds later, I was on the ground and my speech was gone and paralyzed on my left and my right. I didn't go into like the race like in a couple of minutes. And I'm like, why having the race and then having a stroke? What the heck?
Yeah.
But no, God said now.
Well, that's a good point actually. Like all these years later, like what do you make of that situation now? Like how you've sort of moved from it, and like obviously we'll get into like what you've done as
Yeah.
a result of this, but like as far as like how you feel about the whole thing, do you feel sense of anger or resentment, or is it more a sense of triumph because of what you've overcome? Like, how do you feel about it?
Um, I feel like in the beginning time, I was really depressed.
Hmm.
Um, and then over time, I was kind of happy because I am talking to you fine and seeing the progress
Hmm.
and stuff over 11 years and totally mute versus now I'm
Yeah.
talking to you. I mean, I am kind of okay with it now and
Yeah,
moved on with it and stuff. And oh man, yeah.
I get it, man. And
Yeah.
off the cuff of this, yesterday actually, I believe was the debut of the documentary that you've been working on, which covers this experience.
Yes.
So talk me through how it felt just kind of going to the premiere and seeing this unfold, and what was that like for you?
Um, I am, it was uh thankful because having my family and friends coming to the premiere was like really happy time. And it was 85 people coming.
Mad, good turnout.
Yeah. Um, and I'm super thankful from yesterday.
It's awesome. Let's walk through a little bit like how this documentary came to be. So it covers obviously like how was it constructed? How did they put this documentary together?
Um, at first, they, well, what do you mean?
So obviously typically documentaries will either
Yeah,
follow someone for a certain amount of time,
yeah,
or I imagine with this it's probably a case of a lot of interviews about when it took place and your recovery
yes, okay,
process,
yeah,
and then
okay,
obviously years later how you're doing, where you're at. So
yeah.
what can people
Um,
expect when they hear it?
well, before, during, and after,
Mm.
like time. Before, um, talking about, well, my mom and dad talked about, like me in so much sports and cello playing and in the play and stuff like that, and going to sectionals and having my stroke and stuff. And um, it was everybody cried in one scene because my dad cried in the talking about my experience. And um, everybody cried. um,
Understandably so.
and then after that, it was to me, and I said, like, I am Dionna and I am a stroke survivor. But it was 2 years in the making, actually, um, because it was like, I think my mom and my dad's interviews first,
Mm.
like 2 years ago. And then, and then, um, I think my mine too. And then, um, actually, I went to intense therapy, out of state as well. And my, um, well, Dr. Edward Taub was on Zoom with me and Tyler. uh, a year and a half ago, and really good insight with that.
It's
I
awesome.
don't, yeah,
What would you say has been the biggest lesson or takeaway from this experience for you?
with the documentary or in general,
In general?
you need to fight for your life because I've been there, I've been through it, and people like just keep going, keep going, keep going. That's
And
it.
that's pretty beautiful. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, biggest lesson from the documentary as well, because obviously it's a big undertaking.
hmm Yeah.
What was the biggest lesson from that you got?
Um, just I say, um, pretty well done with our part.
Excellent.
Takeaway, I don't know. I don't know. It was like like after we um uh having the done and over with, I was in the car and I'm like, did we really do that? I'm like, breathe again and stuff.
I've always been a big fan of documentaries just because it covers obviously a certain portion of your life and it's reality, isn't it? I mean, obviously, I know that sometimes you can skew reality and stuff, but for the most part, typically documentaries are a really accurate, interesting reflection of life and a snippet into someone's life,
hmm
and you gain so much from it. Like I'm sure that
Definitely.
with people hearing your story, it's going to be very inspiring for them, particularly if they're going through something similar. Um, to know that you can get through it and you can be the other side. You could be talking about it and being like, "Hey, listen, it's okay. I got through it. So can you?" You know.
Exactly. And I am volunteering at the local brain injury unit as
Right. Yeah.
well.
So,
Um,
so you have a dream to set up like an intensive care clinic to help brain injury survivors.
yes, they have no intense uh, clinic in New York State,
Okay.
well, in US. And I went out of state for intense therapy,
Right.
and I feel like it was helpful, so helpful because I had intense speech and language therapy
Mm-hmm.
over, well, 7 times. And it was super helpful. And my reading, not 100% college level, but like I was like simple words. I got it. But with my clinic, I want to open up the intense clinic here in Rochester, New York.
Best of luck with that.
Thank
Um,
you.
I just want to reflect a little bit on your recovery process from as far as your speech therapy and stuff like that. Like, it's one
Mhm.
thing to obviously to learn, say, language, but to relearn something that you've
hmm
lost. Walk us
Over again.
right, like walk us through like what that was like for you, and also how like what kind of things they got you to do to help get you back to where you need to be.
Yeah. At first I was totally mute
Mhm.
and I learned 2 words in the rehab. First word was no. First word.
Useful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not yes, but no.
Yep.
And mom.
Hmm.
The second word. You get it? No, mom. Oh man. But just two words. And then I was going home and stuff, and I relearned names at first. I had like Hannah and Ron, my uncle Ron, um, and simple words like mom, dad, Joe, my brother, and stuff. And then um, just let's see, yeah, like just simple things like having well, I didn't pronounce anything, and learning how to, like at 2 or 3 years old, having like what is a make,
Hmm.
just like that over again. And it was frustrating,
Yeah,
but
I
I
was gonna say like
got
because it's
through it.
like you know these things, but then you're also having to teach your brain these things again. Like,
Exactly, yeah.
so, but what does it feel like? Is it like a blocker or something? Like you're trying to make those
Yeah.
connections and it's just
And
not there.
in my head, like cat, let's say, and cat in my head, I got it, but
Hmm.
not pronounce it correctly.
It's like a delay almost in a sense. Yeah,
Kind of, kind of.
yeah.
It's a brain fart.
No, I get it. I get it. I get it. I mean, I suppose I don't know if this is any way similar, but sometimes like people talk about things like brain fog, and they talk about this concept of not quite being with it, or that you're trying maybe say to focus on something,
Yes.
but you just can't because it's just cloudy. Was it like that in any way?
Yes, all the time in the beginning
Hmm.
time. Yep.
So, like, how long until it kind of stopped feeling like that, would you say?
Um, w- what do you mean
So, as in that feeling of like brain fog sort of goes away and you're much more,
with it?
yeah, in a manner of speaking, yeah.
Yeah, that was like at least 2 or 3 years after my stroke.
Wow.
Because I relearned how to speak over many years, not like day one, oh, speak again. No.
I mean,
100th day. No.
oh,
I
yeah, yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
like a train, like say train one day, but not the next.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like having the word in my head, but not like came out with it.
So
Like that.
it's almost like muscle memory in a sense. You're kind of having to,
Yeah.
yeah, like get your memory to like remember this stuff. Like it's like, come on, come on.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. I got to ask, like, how obviously this affected your studies. You're 14, so I know in the
Yep.
States, so we do it a little bit differently here. We end senior school education at 16, and then you have 2 years education, but you have choice where you do that, right? But I know in
Mhm.
America it's same as most places in the world where it's up to 18. Um, so how do you get through this? Like, do you know what I mean? Because obviously it's as you said, you had to relearn to read, write,
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
So what did you do? Did you get pushed back, or did you just kind of power through?
Um,
Like, how'd it work?
Technically, I was in the like fifth year of school. Um, but um, I had speech therapy in school as well.
Wow.
And the fifth year was halftime in like uh high school. And then like and then I went to the local college for a class as
Oh,
well.
okay.
And at first, well, I have a note taker as well,
Right.
like after my stroke, um, throughout. school in general. I have a note taker now.
Mhm.
And um but at first I was like first day of 10th grade, like walking in the first day, um like back. Um and I well the surgeon cut my hair off fully.
Wow. Okay.
And I had my leg brace as well, and every buddy stared like I
Mm.
walk down the hallway, and I didn't really speak because like, how are you today?
Mm.
That was not there. Like, I didn't say it, and that was 10 months after my stroke. I didn't really say that like 3 word sentence at all. Um,
So were you able to retain friendships at all?
well, I was pretty
Mhm.
popular, um, before, and zero friends. Well, I lied, like 3 after. Um,
Wow. So they just, a lot of people just step back, like,
yeah,
okay.
and one, well, ex-friend, um, before my stroke, I was like friends with
Hmm.
him. And like 2 days after my accident, my best friend was in school, and he was talking to her and said, "Hey, Deanna died. Thank God."
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
what the
Jesus.
heck? She told me, and I'm like, what the heck? No, I am fully alive.
Some people are just real pieces of
Mean.
shit. Yeah. Sorry, there's no
Yeah.
there's no other way of putting it. Like I mean I will say this. I do understand. Okay, I think for maybe a lot of people when you were at school and you come back from that, they probably just didn't know what to say because you just don't have that
Yeah.
level of emotional maturity to do you know
And
what I mean? Like,
yeah,
but
everybody was like 14, 15,
right,
16.
you're all
And
just
I mean,
kids. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, what about like a like person having a stroke, not me particularly, and like feeling bad with that person, but not talk to him,
Mm.
them, like anymore as well. Like, I don't really, I don't know, like switch roles. I don't know.
Wow, I mean, again, it takes a lot of emotional maturity, I think, to put yourself in someone's place. I mean, you mentioned there you had 3 people that stood by you, and I
Yeah.
imagine those 3 people were people capable of doing that. You know,
Yeah.
like it's, and
Well,
I think it's a good metaphor for life as well, isn't it? Like you
yeah.
know who your friends are when you go through something. You know.
hmm And I grew up really fast
Hmm.
because I had to as well.
So walk us through like you finish high school, you move forward. Like, what does it look like when you're going out, say, into the job world or university, that kind of
I
stuff? Like, how did you move
Yeah,
forward with that?
I went to um the local college with a note taker
Hmm.
as well. Um throughout like school in general. And I had um, two classes in college because my mental capacity was like just two classes. That's it for now. And then um, and then like couple like 1.5, 2 years after that, I switched over to three classes. And then after that, a couple of years later, I transferred to a different college. Um, and then I had four classes, and I uh, graduated in public health last year.
Congratulations.
Undergrad, yes, thank you. And then now I am in my master's right now in disability studies
That's right.
now. And I am not technically going to work like still, because I am fully invested with school right now.
So you think it may be, do you think you might go down the research path maybe?
Possibly. I don't know.
I think because one thing I've noticed about survivors of, say, life-threatening illnesses or
Mhm.
events, etc., is that the types of avenues people tend to go down are research or say public speaking or like either sharing the experience, trying to inspire others, or
Mhm.
trying to get to the bottom of, hey, what can we learn about this, how can we help others, kind of thing. And obviously you've already mentioned that you're doing things like trying to set up intensive care clinics to help with these things. Obviously
Yeah.
you're studying disabilities, so like do you have like a say like an end goal in mind?
Well, yeah, I want to um advocate for others. um and influencer and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um and public speaking as
Yeah.
well. Um but the main goal in life is having the open up the clinic. But that is like years um later.
It'll happen. I believe in
But
it.
thank you.
All right. I got some stroke related questions that come from a follower of mine. Thanks, Vilma. And she always sends out awesome questions. And this is I just read the email when she sent me this 10th of March 2023, so it was a while ago. But I've sifted through. I've got some good questions here from her. One of them stood out to me. What would you say stroke sufferers and patients are in most need of? So I'll break this question
Oh.
down a little bit. So let's say initially when it happens, and then
Mhm.
also long term recovery.
Well, long term, one insurance my dad had, not right now, but in the past, um, the insurance company had just 20 therapy sessions over 1 year. Yeah, in New York State. And and it was frustrating because having like so much therapy and stopped it because of insurance. Um, Insurance problems are really bad in like the US
Mm-hmm.
because I paid, well, not particularly me, but my parents paid out of pocket to go to the intense therapy for me because it was like $15,000 for one therapy session.
How much?
Yeah,
Jesus. I knew
yeah.
American healthcare bills were a lot, but that's insane. How much is this? So, how long would a session be?
It was over 3 weeks. It was like 4 hours of intense therapy, just one limb or my speech, and then having like 2 hours of homework each day for 3 weeks.
Damn.
Yeah, and including like airfare, hotel, like easy 25,000. Um, but you said like looking back to that question, can you have that question again, please?
Yeah. Also, from let's say from like when it initially happens, is there anything that people are in most need of? Like, so
Oh,
the way I take this question is meaning like resources, and obviously, if you, as you've said there, a big thing is tackling it so maybe it's more affordable or more accessible. So that's certainly a
yeah.
part of it. But is there anything else, maybe from a resources perspective or support perspective, or anything else?
Well, well, more awareness is really good because more and more people young having a stroke, any like stroke, um, and research about it
Mm.
as well. Um, but it is like, what do you mean? Like therapy portion or like in general?
I think it's just general, like,
Yeah,
what do you need most?
yeah. I mean, initial like stroke, like having therapy every day for months. And um but with not particularly therapy portion, but resources. Like I have now Access VR. Access Access VR is paying for all of my schooling and it is not in my pocket.
Oh,
Um
good.
and with my accident, like go into Access VR. And they paid for my computer, gas money to go to college and back, um, textbooks in alternate format because I can't read like 100% yet, and listening to my books in like class. Um, that is the big issue. And they paid for my modifications in my car as well.
That's awesome.
But with that, like more insight to everything because I am volunteering again in the brain injury unit right now. Well, not right now, but every Friday. And like I I talk to the patients about like Access VR and stuff, not like the therapist and like including driving again after a incident as well. They have modifications like really like intense modifications in the car, not my car, but in general. And like more insight, more, I, I, yeah,
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
yeah,
there's always more that can be done to kind of improve, I suppose, the
exactly,
experience and such.
exactly. I mean, uh, Anyway,
Couple of final questions for you. Completely unrelated to what we've
hmm
spoken about today. Sorry. What's the biggest life lesson you've learned so far?
life is so short and roll with it.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, crazy as well. As I get older, it's getting increasingly more and more and more and more like that. And of course, I hear stories from wonderful people like yourself as well. And it kind of reinforces that in my mind of like doing as much as you can as often as you can and really just making the most of every day. And that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, every day I got to clown Mount Everest or something. It's just like everything you do with passion. Everything you do with love, or you just try to make the most and
And
really be appreciative.
happiness
Yeah,
as well,
exactly.
not the negatives about life, positive in life. And yeah.
Absolutely. Well, final question for you. Do you have any upcoming projects or some final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh, projects. The what? Oh, growing my TikTok
Ah,
account.
yes.
Um, and then yeah, um, I am we are having a podcast
Yeah, the
called
Stroke of Luck podcast.
Yes. Yep. Just 8 episodes for now, and then possibly in the fall, having the second season. And then just in my master's for now and planning my wedding as
Congratulations.
well. Thank you. After my schooling ends. And then, yeah, I mean, yeah,
Whatever the
that's
future
it.
holds.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your story and just kind of going through everything with us. It's been a real pleasure having you on.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And to all the listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast, I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you found it as inspiring as I do, because I know I love to do this show and never failed to be inspired by these wonderful people. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, and until next time, I'll see you in the next one.